Right, and we are back with the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Eric Rodriguez, here every Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here to talk about everything in terms of the world of professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside of the ring, backstage curtain drama. We talk about superstar news, inactive statuses, updates, as well as injury updates as well. We talk about storylines, potential bookings for WWE Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Collision, every wrestling show there is. I'm just kidding. No, some of them, obviously I only have 5 segments in an hour, to talk about all the wrestling and stuff like that would be like like a marathon of a podcasting, which I'm not opposed up against, would definitely have to, bring at least like a, 24 pack of water, maybe perhaps some food, some fruits, some vegetables. I'm just kidding. No, if you got to go for like a marathon, you know what I mean? But overall, thank you so much for tuning into the show. Just kind of reflecting what we talked about right quick. We had our AEW Dynamite review. We also had our, TNA Ring of Honor Club previews for tonight's episodes. We also talked about Karrion Kross's future in WWE, maybe potential storylines, with him and, his comments of, him in an interview talking about him potentially going back to WWE NXT. So without further ado, we're going to talk about our next subject. We have Tom Aspinall. He's a UFC World Heavyweight Champion. It's kind of weird. They online they say he's an interim. He's an interim UFC Heavyweight Champion. I don't know what makes somebody an interim heavyweight champion. Like I do dabble on the UFC once in a while. I wish I could watch more of it, but their pay-per-views are so expensive. Like it's crazy. Like it's insane. Like sometimes I think I went to one UFC fight. I think it was at a Buffalo Wild Wings, and then I don't know, you just see a whole bunch of people like it was obviously people get together at B Dubs and to watch football, and it's so cool. It's so awesome. I think it's because they know, what's going on. You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of fans of the UFC, you see people like break noses and act like they break bones and stuff like that. And I'm just your friendly neighborhood WWE fan. Like, you know what I mean? Sometimes it could be a little much. You see these guys like blah blah blah, and I'm like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, oh my god, like, dude, he's done, man, he's done. And the referee has to like come and run and push him off and stuff like that. And I don't know. It's cool, people get excited. Oh my God, people get excited. People get absolutely nuts when they see a UFC fight. I went to I went to a party once, a UFC watch party. So it's twice I went to like UFC events, and you had those guys that were like, okay, this is exactly how you get out of this submission hold. There's always that one guy who knows how to be a better fighter than the people being portrayed inside the octagon. There's always that one guy. Also, there's always that one guy who like practices moves on you, and usually he has that like drunk girlfriend in the corner. Be like, oh my god, babe, you could have totally been a UFC fighter. Like, you know what I mean? There's always that person, and I'm just kidding. No, I'm not dogging on, UFC fans or anything like that, But although for the longest time, UFC fans before their partnership with with TKO, all used to love calling WWE. Oh, you watch that fake stuff, man? And I'm like, dude, like, do you know what these guys actually go through? So, I don't know, a lot of back and forth banter, but see, that's what the podcast is all about, talking about stuff. Send me in the chat maybe how you feel how the UFC matches up with the WWE. Maybe you've had some prior UFC watch party experiences that kind of went south like mine. I'm just kidding though. Overall. All right, so let's talk about the UFC champion Tom Aspinall in WWE. Got a chat from my man Logan James. I have a hard choice. Who is top three? Julia, Mayuma. Man, that'd be amazing if I knew how to pronounce that. I will do. It's just Julia. Julia. From what I've saw with her match with Roxanne Perez, she's very gifted. Um, she does kind of have a hard time speaking in promos because I feel like she doesn't really know the language that well, which shouldn't, ultimately like be a burden on the perception of wrestling fans in her career and stuff like that. Absolutely not 1,010%. That's bad. But I would love, as soon as this podcast ends, I'm going to look up a Mayuma. I'm assuming that's New Japan Professional Wrestling or Stardom. Would it be interesting to kind of find out, how she, her presence inside the squared circle. So I'm actually going to write that down. I'm going to make sure I Google that. But ultimately, I do feel like Julia is doing great inside NXT. This run in with her and Stephanie Vicura of the CMLL is it's just fantastic. It's just it's just amazing how NXT is going so global so quick. Recently they just found out they were going to be on the CW, kind of replacing the CW saw kind of the NWA seemed like they were kind of faltering. They do have episodes on their X channel, but I think there was some controversy between the National Wrestling Alliance and a spot or a spot they did where one of the wrestlers actually went out in the crowd and was doing illegal substances with the fans, and it was shown on the CW. And I think after that, the CW was like, you know what? No, thank you. We don't want any part of that. Like, I get you can run the creativity, and I get you can run your own wrestling promotion however you want, Billy Corgan. But that's just a no-no. And obviously, AEW loves to push the lines as well, in terms of that as well, like that plastic bag spot, the syringe in Swerve Strickland's mouth in that steel cage match with Hangman Adam Page at AEW All In. But I don't know. I feel like once when the CW called it quits with the NWA, and the way that this NXT is right now is it's wonderful. It's great. It feels like it fits. It feels like more of a CW kind of wrestling promotion as well. So, without further ado, let's go and jump on into this. So this guy jumped into the wrestling ring at the WWE live event. Cody Rhodes and Gunther were obviously having a showdown. He's in Manchester, England. He came in. He actually, the England native, from the UFC. Obviously, TKO, the parent company for both the UFC and the WWE. Gunther even broke kayfabe, shook his hand. It was like, it's an absolute pleasure to meet you. Congratulations on all your success. And then he even said, Cody made the best man win. Like, you know what I mean? For me, it'd be awesome if you kind of left it at that. I don't really want to see WWE drive more of a wedge between Gunther and Cody Rhodes. I would love to see these guys still have, potential storylines on both Raw and SmackDown. Because if you think about it, there's no really obligation to kind of have these guys have promos where they just, beat the crap out of each other, or they're very vocal about their fight and stuff like that. Like, there's no need for that. There's no need for that because the titles aren't on the line. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, of course, there's the WWE Crown Jewel Championship. Like, I get it. Like, it's cool. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or Jeddah, like I keep, kind of like my philosophy in terms of professional wrestling. You really don't see like any big badass title change happening, across seas, even like Bash at Berlin or like the, Backlash in France or, Clash at the Castle. Like, you don't really see any like big, I feel like when in terms of WWE, they do, obviously it's smart business. You have the big four pay-per-views, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and, SummerSlam, where it's like, okay, now we can kind of have these world heavyweight titles, kind of change hands if it absolutely needed to be. But you don't need to turn these guys against each other so crazy. Much like I kind of alluded to with Kevin Owens going heel, attacking Cody Rhodes, and now he's attacking Randy Orton, which I honestly disagree with. I felt like he still should have been Randy's friend. I felt like Randy, could have maintained that person in the middle. It was like, you know what, you guys, keep doing your thing, keep fighting each other, but just leave me out of it. And I don't think Kevin Owens needed to go that heel. And he went so far off the deep end. Like, I don't. I was kind of disappointed about the attack on Randy Orton. But I trust Triple H Levesque and his creative capabilities and his his smart brain. Hopefully, it's not something that bites him in the arse later on in terms of creative booking and stuff like that. Because so far, his since he took over for WWE as CEO, it's been great. He's been doing great. But I don't know. It's I feel like it was a little bit too much. I don't want to see these guys go down the same route. Then next, Aspinall had a great reaction from the crowd inside the squared circle. The fans loved him. Obviously, he was in his hometown as well. He revealed to an MMA journalist that he wishes to eventually make his way into the WWE once when he's done with the MMA. He said this, and I quote, "When I have retired from MMA." I'm switching over to WWE. I'm going to be a world heavyweight champion. So this guy has plans already in the mix. This guy has an amazing UFC record of 15-3 with 11 knockouts. This guy's a complete and utter badass. WWE would be absolutely lucky to have him. You know what I mean? I feel like it'd be an amazing acquisition from from a number of MMA superstars that made their way to the WWE. You know, you had Ronda Rousey, which was great. You know, definitely one of the most prolific signings in WWE history. She was well known in the MMA community. I think she only lost twice, but she lost back to back where she got like absolutely beat it down, and which kind of forced her to be. I think she was getting concussions or something like that, and it just wasn't. She didn't feel the same, so it was like, you know what, I'm gonna hop over to WWE. Now that the fact that WWE and UFC are under the same TKO umbrella, like it's a little ironic that I feel like the UFC stars would absolutely love to go to WWE. I can name a handful of guys like who used to fight. Like I used to be highly more into UFC, like during the Matt Hughes, Forrest Griffin, BJ Penn. That was kind of like when Brock Lesnar was around there as well. The Spider Anderson Silva was pretty badass. Rampage Johnson as well. He was super cool. And I was in my opinion, kind of like the glory days of UFC when they started becoming, super dang popular. A little bit mainstream. So I thought that was, pretty badass. That was pretty cool. Obviously, Ronda Rousey, Ken Shamrock, Shayna Baszler, Matt Riddle, Lola Vice, Alberto Del Rio, Josh Barnett, and also, Tom Lawler are people who also crossovered from being an MMA star, an MMA fighter, to professional wrestling. And all of them did have their storylines. They all had their success. You still see Tom Lawler right now, probably because this guy was fighting in Ring of Honor. I think he even did some work in New Japan Professional Wrestling, which was pretty badass. Matt Riddle, from what I've heard from Matt Riddle, president of UFC, kind of wanted him out. Didn't like the way he was, kind of mouthing off and stuff like that. So maybe WWE kind of did them a favor there. Ken Shamrock, obviously, back before UFC was like an actual thing. Yeah, cage fighting and stuff like that. You had Ken Shamrock. Of course, it once when it officially, I feel like once when cage fighting started, started becoming really popular, and it hit the world by storm. Everybody loved UFC. Everybody still does love the UFC. Hell, they pay all that money for that pay per view. It's crazy. And of course, like prolific stars who helped. Like kind of like Conor McGregor. I feel like Conor McGregor would be an amazing WWE star because he has that promo. He's willing to cut good promos. I feel like that'd be pretty badass. But would love to see him in WWE. That would be pretty badass to see that that Irish badass inside the squared circle. But definitely would think WWE would be absolutely ecstatic if after Tom Aspinall calls it quits from UFC and MMA fighting, he makes his way into a career in professional wrestling. And that'd be I would love it. I feel like that'd be great. All right, guys, do not go anywhere. We got our fifth and final segment. We got Steph D. Lander, TNA Knockouts, who recently had neck fusion surgery. Gonna just, briefly talk about it real quick, rapidly running out of time. We're gonna talk about a couple of our other wrestlers back in the past who had, neck injuries as well. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage to join me here in about like 25 seconds.